Welcome back, everyone. Thanks a lot for coming back. Thanks a lot for sticking with me. Thanks to all the subscribers, all the new subscribers, all the old subscribers, and everybody else who's found this just by happenstance. Hope you like what you see and think about subscribing as well. The more subscribers I get, the more encouragement I get. I've been getting a lot of great comments. As I've said in the past videos, feedback is always welcome. Different tips, different ideas, it's always welcome. It's a great learning experience, hopefully going both ways. Showing me a thing or two, and hopefully I'm assisting you guys out there, maybe seeing a new tip or trick. So, today, finally, maybe I've been building it up more in my head than anything, but I've been promising a video on making trees, and the weather in Wisconsin's finally hit a point where I can get outside, not freeze. It's still pretty cool out. It's only in the 40s, but you know, for us Wisconsinites and northern dwellers, 40 can seem like a balmy day when it's been in the teens and 20s for the last few months. So I have an opportunity to get out there, make some trees, and hopefully show you the process that I use and how I go about making my trees. So let's flip over to the products that we're going to use, and then we'll get started on the tree making process. So the first thing that I use, now my layout is a fall based layout, so my trees are changing color. So I use multiple colors to simulate the different tree types and leaf colors. First thing I do though is I've got quite a few different colors from different manufacturers. Got your Scenic Express and some Woodland Scenics. These are coarse turf, and I don't know if the Woodland Scenics ones. Basically they're all coarse turf though. Different products. So you can see I've got some yellows, some reds, and then like almost like a brown mustard color, and then of course green. And I also have, with one of the kits that I bought a while back, Knock makes a flake product that's, I think this is like shredded paper, possibly. These look a little bit more like, well, I guess they look a little bit more like leaves when they're on the tree armatures. So, and as you can see, so what I do, the first thing I do is I've got a whole bunch of buckets, ice cream buckets, OxyClean buckets, and I fill these with the ground foam. And this process does use up quite a bit of ground foam. So the good news there is you get a real good dense tree. So if that's what you're after, you'll be happy with the results. However, you do go through ground foam pretty quick. So I've got all the different colors and different buckets, and then the other part of the tree is armatures. You can get your armatures from multiple different sources. You can go with your natural products, or you can go with pre-made that just requires a little bending. These are Woodland Scenics tree armatures. I know that you can get these from a couple different manufacturers. I believe that these are wire coated with plastic. I like these, and in a pinch in the wintertime when I can't get a hold of natural materials, these work. However, excuse me, the only thing I don't like about them is once they're planted, I feel you don't get a very long trunk base. Now that has more to do with how I make the trees, and you'll see that as we go here. But with these, you want to take and form the armatures just by bending these out. And in the way I make them, the bends aren't critical. You're just looking for something that's going to give the tree a 3D structure. So that's one method. Some people like to paint these like a gray color. I know one of the keys to trees is that they're not actually brown; they're more of a gray color. I find that once I've got the polyfill over the top of these, like I said, you don't really see the trunk anyway, so I generally don't paint them. And then like the base itself, I either don't use or it's buried under ground foam and material, so you don't see it anyway. So this is one armature type. The preferred armature type, if you can get a hold of it, and a lot of times when I'm working in the yard, clearing brush and all that kind of stuff, I prefer to use real tree branches. So for instance, this is just trimmed off my wife's lilac bush. Don't tell her. But lilac bushes have a great structure. They have got a lot of small branches branching off, and this is great for just, well, there you go. There's your tree armature. Here's another one. This is a larger one. I think this is taken off of a crick. This one obviously isn't necessarily ideal. You probably only get maybe one tree out of this whole thing once you trim all of this stuff down. But that's kind of what I look for when I'm working out in the yard, or just kind of if I'm out for a walk with the kids, or in the park someday. You see these, break them off, there you go. And the next part of tree making is polyfill. Now, I know you can get polyfill pre-colored from multiple manufacturers. I think Micromark maybe sells a version that has it's pre-stained black or dark green, I think. However, my daughter was making for Girl Scouts one day a sit-upon, and she had to stuff it with polyfill. So we got this bag from Michael's for $4 or $5, and she used maybe a quarter of it. And so now I'm left over with this bag. So I'm using it. So it's just standard polyfill, nothing special about it. But in the process later on, once we're actually doing the trees, I'll show how we have to just tease it out a little bit and thin it. And then we spread it over the armature, and then we'll spray paint it. So those are the next pieces. And here's the two products that why I work outside when I make my trees. So the first one is, well, in this case it's Weldwood spray adhesive, but you can use 3M spray adhesive, whoever. But this, unfortunately, when it's aerosol, after you spray it, you can tell that it gets into the air, and then the floor and everything around you gets sticky. So I don't like using this one inside, especially around the layout. Everything sticks. So the first thing we'll do is spray the armatures with this, apply the the polyfill, the polyfiber rather, and then I use in this case it's a Krylon camouflage. And the reason I picked the camouflage color is because it's a matte color. First of all, it's this green color, and it's a matte, so you won't get a shine on it. And I'll spray the entire tree, the polyfill, the polyfiber, with this green color, and that helps to mask the white, and also gives the tree some darkens the tree up a little bit, so you can't see the inside of it, makes it look more dense. Once that's, I don't even wait for it to dry. Wet paint will help get your ground foam to stick. But I do come back with another coat of spray adhesive. Then you take the tree, throw it in the bucket, toss the bucket around. The polyfiber or the ground foam will adhere to it. That's it. That's your tree. So let's go outside, and I'll get everything set up, and we'll make some trees. Okay, so this is my setup for when I work on the trees. I have an old Rubbermaid top that once I'm done, I can throw the finished trees on here, and then it's easier to carry them in. It's easier to carry them in this way. So the only downside to working outside with this is that so what you have to do with the polyfill is you take some clumps of it like this, and you just start to thin it out, and basically create a fine netting of it, basically like that. And you'll want to make a whole bunch of these, and if it's windy, this is going to be quite the challenge. So sometimes you can just stick them underneath something to hold them. But and you can make them as big as you want. The bigger you make them, the further they'll go. Because once we're done, and once we've sprayed them, we'll just be taking that and putting it over the top. Once we spray it on, and then we'll put it over the top. And we'll, if you have one, you could wrap an entire tree with it. If you've got a lot of smaller ones, then you can just do, multiple pieces. Now, the other thing you can do is, if you want to make the tree a little bit more unique, is you could just wrap it not entirely around the whole tree, but just around the branch structure, and go for something like that. Then you're going to see more of the branches in here. I mean, this works. I haven't done this actually, but I prefer just an entire large tree, nice and full. So I'm going to fast forward, but because I got a whole bunch of these to make, I've got a big pile of trees that I need to do. So you just keep teasing these out, making some polyfiber netting, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, for these next steps here, I highly recommend gloves. You're going to be getting spray adhesive and all this stuff all over. I also recommend rolling up your sleeves to get dirty, or I guess in this case to prevent yourself from getting dirty. But I do highly recommend the gloves. Between the spray paint and the adhesive, you're going to be getting a lot all over the place. So I like to spray into a box just to catch some of the overspray. Even though I'm working outside, it's still nice to, I don't want to get paint all over everything. So shake these up really well. Hopefully you get the cap off. Alright, so I'm going to start with a real armature first. So this is just an old tree branch. Of course, now the wind's picking up, so there might be wind noise. So just spray it. Spray it on. Now you come back with some of your polyfill. Like I said, this is where, depending on how many pieces, or how big you made the pieces, how many pieces you'll need to get good coverage. Okay, so now we've got a basic tree structure, but obviously, unless it's a winter scene and the trees are flocked, you're going to want to color this. So, come back with my camouflage paint. There we go. So now we've got an undercoated tree. We'll come back with another coat of spray adhesive. And now we pick what color we want. I'm going to go with yellow, stick it in our bucket, bounce her around, and as you can see, it's tossing it everywhere. So now that I've got the tree coated, I like to use, try and keep one hand clean of any of the adhesives and stuff like that, so when I reach in, it doesn't get stuck. Now what I like to do is really give it an aggressive shake to knock the branches off, or any loose material off. And there you go. There's a polyfibered tree. So let's do another one, and we'll use one of the Woodland Scenics armatures. I use the same basic process. First hit it with a coating of spray adhesive. Get some polyfill out. Okay, basic structure down. Alright, so now we got the green down. Come back with our spray adhesive. Don't be afraid to be too heavy with this. You want to get, you really want the your ground foam to have something to stick to once it's applied. Now you can also come back after and spray another coating of the spray adhesive on, but what I like to do is finish these with some spray hairspray. Now I know that some people say that the spray hairspray will yellow over time. I haven't found that to be the case, and I just use cheap old Aquanet or whatever I can find when I'm at the grocery store. It gives it a little extra adhesive, so if you bump these trees, but you can see there's not a lot coming off, you know. And then once the glue really dries, it's pretty set. So that's the tree, and you can see that there are going to be some spots that aren't completely full. You can either turn those towards the back, or with it being green underneath, and once it's on the layout, it's going to hide it pretty well, so you won't see it very much. So this is just a solid green. The other thing we can do, and this is a technique I picked up off of YouTube, so we'll try another real armature, and we're going to try a couple different colors on the tree, so we'll go over that one once real quick. Okay, so now when in fall, your trees generally don't all change over at once. So sometimes you'll have some of the tree being green and then a different color. So what you can do is, instead of doing the toss method, is just to do a little bit of a dip. So you got some green on there, and then we'll come back and do the toss. In red, and then I think what we'll do is we'll hit the bottom here with a little bit more adhesive, and then we'll just now, I don't know that there's exactly like a fall tree, but you know, that's kind of just a technique to show you how you can show a tree in transition. So maybe a early fall, or maybe this is a late bloomer or a late changer, whatever that term would be. Got a piece of scrap in there, get rid of that. But you know, you can do multiple colors. So you can do a dip instead of a toss, I guess, would be the method there. So, all right, so that's trees. I got a whole bunch to finish. The techniques are all the same, so I'm gonna cut back to the workbench. Okay, well, here's some finished product. This batch took about a half hour total to finish. This is, I think, a little bit better of an example of what I was trying to go after, where the tree is changing over. So there's some green in there, and then some red as well, and you know, some oranges and stuff like that. But so you can see a combination of the real wood armatures and then the Woodland Scenics versions. I think they both fill out really well. I personally really like the fullness of these trees. I think they fill out a scene really well. Well, that's it. That's how I go about making my trees. The method I showed can be used for multiple different tree styles. One of the more common things, they call them puffball trees, where you take the polyfiber and make it into a ball and spray that. Same method, spray it with the adhesive, throw it in the and you can spray paint it, throw it in the ground foam, and then you've got a puffball which you could place on a mountain. Because I've got a shelf layout and I don't really have any mountain sides or real hillsides, I kind of go with the armatures and the trees themselves, you know, instead of just the clumps all over. For my layout, I feel like the individual trees fit better. But you could modify the method I showed to do the puffball trees as well. The other thing, the method that I showed does work with Scenic Express Super Trees. I know that their instructions say to use matte medium. You dip the super tree armature into a bucket of matte medium, let it soak for a bit. That works. I found that the spray adhesive works better. It's more tacky than the matte medium, and so you get a more solid tree using the super trees. I really like the super trees myself, though. I have some of those throughout the layout. And you know, if you can mix and match them, you get a different variety of tree types, so everything doesn't look uniform. But so that's tree making, and I hope it gives you some inspiration, if nothing else. It just shows you a different technique. Would love to see links or suggestions on other methods. You know, the only thing with this method is that you will get kind of uniform looking trees. So if you can throw another method in there, or a different type of armature, or you know, just to vary things a little bit. So alright, well, thanks much for watching. I hope the video lived up to the anticipation and the wait to get to this point. Unfortunately, now I've burned up my tree making video. I'll have to work on some new material for next time. So thanks again for subscribing. Thank you if you're a new subscriber, and we'll see you next video.